Hello, we're back with another video entitled "Is Senate Bill 1055 Spousal Support Enforcement, License Suspensions, Unlawful, Void, or Snake Oil?" I like to say all praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the creator of the universe. I like to say I love my mother, I love my father, I love our son, and have love for the mother of our son. Table of Contents. What is SB 1055? Why is SB 1055 a misinformation campaign? Educational review of Senate floor analysis. Is SB 1055 unlawful, void, or snake oil? Conclusion references. What is SB 1055? SB 1055 is amended Cam Ladger Child Support Enforcement License Suspensions. Existing law requires a local child support agency to maintain a list of those persons included in a case being enforced under Title 4D of the Social Security Act against whom a support order or judgment has been rendered by or registered in a California court and who are not in compliance with that order or judgment. For purposes of those provisions, existing law defines compliance with a judgment or order for support to mean that an obligor is no more than 30 days in arrears in making payments in full for current support, in making periodic payments in full on a support arrearage, or in making periodic payments in full on a judgment for reimbursement for public assistance as specified. Existing law requires the Department of Child Support Services to consolidate and certify the local child support agency list and provide a consolidated list to specify dates, entities that are responsible for the regulation of licenses, including, but not limited to, the Department of Motor Vehicles. Existing law requires those entities prior to the issuance or renewal of a license to determine whether the applicant is on the most recent certified consolidated list provided by the department and authorize the entity to withhold issuance or renewal of the license of an applicant on the list as specified. This bill, with respect to which was a redacted driver's license, is a non-commercial driver's license, would extend the period of arrears for purposes of determining compliance with a judgment or order for support for from no more than 30 days to no more than 6 months. The bill would also prohibit the department from including any list sent to the Department of Motor Vehicles for the purpose of suspending a non-commercial driver's license, a support obligor whose annual income is at or below 60% of the median income for the county as defined. The bill would state that this prohibition would be implemented to the extent allowed under federal law. So why is SB 1055 a misinformation campaign? SB 1055 does not deal with the origin of the debt. So it's stated with the child support debt. The debt is something that they made up, and if you delved in it or looked into the debt deeper, you will see that the child support agency and the staff of the courts are forging these documents to come up with these alleged debts that are owed. SB 1055 is based upon forged court orders. So as stated in the previous video, the staff of the child support and the staff of the courts, the court clerks and the judges are basing these orders or these debts on forged documents. that is also misinformation, because this is not, this SB 1055 is trying to help people who have their license suspended and due to a debt or arrearages, but it does not delve into how the debt was created. So SB 1055 authority is based on unconstitutional codes and statutes. There's a typo. So yes, child support is unconstitutional. You could look up that online and see the different Supreme Courts from around the states here in the United States have stated that. They're basing the SB 55 on the basis that the debt is actually legit or valid, and it's not. So they're basing this whole SB 1055 that their debt is actually legit and valid, and that they have the authority to inform the DMV that they could suspend said licenses, whether driver's license or any kind of license from the state of California, that they could they have the authority to take the privilege away. SB 1055 helps DMV and licensees. So in a sense, it is known or well known that the Child Support Agency takes away so-called driver's licenses if they're able to maintain some kind of a repertoire where the so-called obligor agrees to paying their fictitious or fraudulent debt. This will help the DMV with their fees and the fees they have from the licenses. It's stated if these licenses, whether they're drivers or professional licenses, are taken away, the DMV and whatever agencies won't be able to obtain revenue. So this is a way to give people back their licenses, but also a way for the state of California as a foreign corporation for profit to make up for these fees that they've lost from taking these licenses from so-called obligors for driver's license, non-commercial driver's license, commercial driver's license, as a way to bring back the revenue to the state of California as a foreign corporation for profit. So educational review of Senate floor analysis. Let's look at the PDF. Let me scroll up. Okay, so some of this is going to be cut off. So this is a Senate Rules Committee third reading. They're amending Senate Bill 1055. This is from the author, State Senator Cam Lodger. Not sure if she's a state senator or just a regular senator, but they had this is a committee. The people said yes. Ayes, noes, no vote recorded. Senate Appropriation Committee, yeses, noes. Child support enforcement license and suspensions. So let me try to make this a little bigger so we could read it. It'll be cut off for you, but just to read it. Excuse me. Okay. If you want to read this as well, just Google in the SB 1055 and then look up this and you could find it. So digest. The bill lengthens the time before which a licensing board, including the Department of Motor Vehicles, may suspend or revoke the license of a person for owing overdue child or family support from 30 to 180 days, and provides the Department of Child Support Services shall not transmit to the DMV for license revocation the name of any support obligor whose income is at or below 60% of the county's median income as defined. Analysis. Existing federal law provides block grants to the states to fund state programs for low-income families. So as stated from the previous video, Title 4D is child support funds, which pays Title 4A, which is welfare expenditures. You could read about this in the Child Support Manual, Federal Child Support Manual, and the Child Support Handbook for whatever state. We happen to be looking at California. So it's stated it's a offset or for child support to pay off welfare expenditures. It's not about the kids. 2. Imposes on states receiving grants certain requirements pertaining to the state's collection of child and family support, including the requirement that the states have and utilize a procedure for withholding, suspending, or restricting a license, including a driver's license of a person with the overdue child or family support obligations. So federal law does not specify how long a parent support obligation must be in arrears before the state must take action against a parent's license. So these are the codes. You have these 666s, mark of the beast, which is very satanic. You could look this up so you know the origins of the people that are enacting these codes or so-called laws. You have to also realize that the states are getting away with taking people's license. They're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to give people due process, but as stated, the state of California employees child support in a court are denying people their due process and entering these people into false debts and contracts, calling them participants and obligors, and they're taking licenses away. They're not supposed to do that. There was a Department of Justice memo letter stating that child support can't take the license and then try to extort for a debt or a bill. So these people engaged in this are committing all kinds of fraud and not even following their own laws. Okay. Existing state law adopts the following relevant definitions for the suspension of a license of a person with an overdue child or family support obligation. Compliance with a judgment or order for support is defined as being no more than 30 days in arrears and making payments in full on the court ordered child or family support obligation. So basically, if they feel that you fell behind on their fraudulent debt, they could find you that you're not in compliance of a judgment or order for support. But as stated, none of this exists. They're forging a document. So if you were to examine your child support order, you will see that it's been forged or as whiteout or redacted. So they're using these fake orders to say that it has the enforcement of a judicial order, but it's never been signed by a judge. So all this stuff would not really mean anything because it was started with fraud. License includes membership to the state bar, certificate, credential, permit, registration, or any authorized issue by a board that allows a person to engage in business, occupation, or profession. So this is just saying that these are things that you would need a license or some kind of certificate that they have some kind of authority to take that away from a fake debt. They're not supposed to do that because it's called peonage. They can't extort you and say we're going to take your license if you don't pay us the money. That goes against the consumer protection laws. But as stated again, these are some adhesion contracts. So they're doing whatever they can, whether it's fraud or all kinds of crimes, to do this grant and fundraising under AB 1058, Child Support Commissioner and Family Law Facilitator Program. Establishing the following procedures for implementing a license suspension. So local child support agency must maintain a list of those who are not in compliance of family support payments and submit an updated version to Department of Child Support Services on a monthly basis. They must consolidate the list from the agency within 30 days of receipt. Provide a copy of consolidated list to board responsible. So as stated, the origins of this is fraud. The people that may have enacted this so-called bill think they're helping people because it's stated people need their licenses. They might have professional licenses, and all of a sudden you have a child support agency threaten you, extorting you if you don't pay us. We're going to take this away, which they're not supposed to do, but they've been getting away for it so long, and the staff of the courts have been helping them that it almost seems like it's useless, but they're not supposed to do that. In cases involving license other non-commercial licenses, if a license board determines applicant for licensure renewal is on the most recent list, but is otherwise eligible for licensure, the board may withhold issuance or renewal of license. So once again, they're just doing what the child support agency says. They don't care if they forged documents. They don't care if they committed fraud, but they're using these licenses as the dangle in front of your face to force you to pay a debt, which is debt slavery. Okay, so D, for licenses other than commercial licenses, DMV shall notify the obligor of overdue payments and issue a 150-day temporary license to give the obligor time to pay overdue child support. 150-day temporary license may be renewed for additional 150-day period upon showing a good cause. DMV may issue a non-temporary license to applicant only if the applicant pays overdue child or family support. So it's stated again, they're forcing you to pay so you could have your license back. The whole thing is going to the root cause that they're not supposed to do that, but this is some kind of racket they have going on, that they're getting these block grants, meaning that they're getting grants from the government that they could use conditionally through the child support program. So that's what it's all about. Should they be extorting people to pay these fees? No, but DMV would be in on it because they're receiving fees or kickbacks. These agencies, say the DMV and the child support agency and the court, are not paying taxes on these block grants that they're receiving. So they're putting the debt on the obligor to pay that, when in fact that the debt is just created by them so they can make money. DCSS, when economically feasible, provide a list of support obligors who are more than 4 months in arrears on child or family support payments to cover licensing boards, and request that these obligors have their license suspended. The board must provide a notice of intent to suspend the license in 150 days. If the obligor does not pay the overdue child or family support, this temporary license may not be renewed. So it's stated this debt is started in fraud and forgery, and now they're doing extortion when they don't have the authority to do that. But all these people have their hands in the devil's pot or cauldron, meaning that they're all eating from this, so they're protecting each other in their crimes. And they really don't have the authority to do that, but these people are just going to do what they're told to do. They're not going to research it, and they don't necessarily care what harm they're doing. They just want to get this money, and they want to oppress people. When the obligor becomes in compliance with a support order, the local child support agency must issue a notice to the obligor and the relevant board stating that the obligor is in compliance. Upon receipt, the board shall process the release and issue the requested license for the remainder of the licensing term. So key word is compliance. But as stated, all this is fraud, forgery, false documents. You can't really comply with something that started in fraud. You could comply to get your license back, but then it is if that you agreed with the fraud that they did. So they don't have the authority to do that, but obviously they do it anyway. They have the protection from the courts, the sheriff, the state, so they could do whatever they want. Are they above the law? No, but they feel that they are, so they're doing all these things at our peril and ignorance. So it requires Department of Housing and Community Development to set income thresholds for persons or families of low income, moderate income, and medium income based on median income, the geographic area, for purposes determine eligibility for certain public benefits and to set forth income levels and regulations. So it's stated the child support is slavery, it's peonage, but they're probably finding out that they can't make any money putting people into slavery, so they have to at least listen up the shackles to say, okay, obligors and non-custodial parents, we're going to dangle this cookie in front of you and you could get your temporary license back, but we're going to be oblivious to the fraud and the harm that we've committed to you or done to you. This bill modifies definition of compliance with a judgment or order for support. With respect to driver's license, to mean no more than 6 months in arrears and making payments in full and court order child support or family order. So no court order exists. They're signed by a judge. All this stuff is made up. You have judicial council forms, and this is all fraudulent. You had the California Supreme Court Justice Tani Sukuye signing these $1 million contracts to let them run this child support program so the state can make money. 2, provides the DCSS shall not transmit to the DMV for purposes of suspending a driver's license for failure to pay child support in name of any support obligor whose annual household income is at or below 60% of the median. So these are guidelines that they should follow, but they don't care. They charge people in prison for child support. It's stated the whole thing is a fraud. You could look at the videos in the past on the channel that I've stated and put in there how they commit fraud and forgery. Income for honey based on the most recent available data published by DHCD. Okay. So there's a condition, comments. There's a condition of receiving certain block grants for state programs aiding low-income individuals. Federal law requires California to have a procedure for suspending the license, including driver's license, a person are behind on their court-ordered child support payments. California has implemented that requirement by requiring child support agencies to report all DCSS all obligors more than 30 days in arrears on payments, and DCSS transmitted the list to the DMV for the DMV to begin processing suspension. So it's stated this is about the block grants and the federal funding that the child support agencies and the courts are not paying taxes on, which makes tax fraud, tax evasion. They're saying that they could report um, people that haven't paid to notify the DMV of their license being in jeopardy. This is fraud and crimes committed by the staff of the child support agency, and you have the DMV aiding and abetting in fraud and the crimes of the child support agency and the courts. According to the author, sponsor, and supporters, suspending a child support obligor's license for failing to pay child support is counterproductive. Suspending a parent's license deprives them of easy means to go to work and earn money necessary to become current on payments, and instead makes it more likely they will fall further behind. To reduce the likelihood of this perverse result, this bill alters the state's driver's license suspension. First, this bill lengthens the time support payments. It must be in arrears before DMV can suspend a license from 30 to 180 days. Second, to avoid penalizing the economically disadvantaged parents, this bill prohibits DCSS from transmitting the DMV the names of the parents whose incomes are below 60% the median income for the county based on the most recent available data. So basically, the author notes that it's perverse, but it's stated this is misinformation to the child support creating a tribunal court. They're not able to do that because they're in the executive branch of government. The only courts are judicial, so they have to make an administrative hearing. But this author is playing the devil's advocate because this so-called person works for the state, so they have to draft it up in a way that it makes it seem that their dealings are fair, and they have to use all this fancy legal knowledge to hide the slavery. But as stated, they can't put a debt on you and force you to pay for a license and suspend it. They're not supposed to do that. The Department of Justice made a memo about that to the child support agency, but they're a part of the fraud and the scam as well, so they're not going to necessarily enforce that. So physical effect, DCSS, one-time impact in millions, create automated IT system with data from DHCD, license suspension recourse, establish a memorandum of understanding with required departments, implement new policies and regulations, increase staff in general fund. So all this money is going to go into general fund. They're going to make a memorandum of understanding, which is like a quasi contract. But these so-called corporate agencies are too incompetent to make a real contract, so they have to make a memorandum of understanding. They can't make a real contract because it will violate the separation of powers doctrine. DMV reports minor costs for update to existing procedures and training. So the DMV is going to get a kickback or a fee from this, which becomes an honest service fraud because they're denying people to have honest services and they're holding these debts. So both of these agencies are committing fraud. Not so much the agencies, but the people that work for them. So this is the support of the people supporting the bill. California Families Rise, Reentry Advocates, Root and Rebound, Western Center on Law and Poverty, California Association of Family Law Specialists, Starting Over Inc., Tipping Point Community. So as stated, this whole debt is fraudulent. This SB 1055 is a smokescreen, just like the SB 1200 for lowering the arrears and the interest rate on child support. The thing is that we're not trying to undermine people in their efforts of what they think they consider doing good, but what they're doing is they're picking and choosing the help they want. Normally in medicine or any kind of science field, you go to the root cause, but obviously when you go to the root cause of these debts, you will find that the state of California employees in their courts and child support agency and the local counties and the board of supervisors are committing fraud. They're laundering this money. They're not paying taxes on it. They're forging documents. They're using whiteout. They're having their county agencies and law enforcement enforce fake court orders. So if you delve and you research what all this means, you will go to the root. Okay, so arguments in support according to Tipping Point writing in support. SB 1055 will address the issue of aggressive child support mandates with twofold approach. The state laws outlining this issue can be found in Family Code Section 17520. Specifically, this bill will add a requirement that disallows the DCSS from suspending the licenses of those in child support arrears that make below 60%. Also, this bill will extend the current Department Child Support practice of DMV notifications after 30 days overdue child support payments to no more than 6 months. Beyond any of these substantive charges will allow for more support-driven approach to child support enforcement while centering those that will suffer the most from overly punitive mandates. Taking away driver's license robs low-income, non-custodial parents of the opportunity to earn, for example, barring them from working as Lyft or Uber driver. Tipping Point funded a pilot program with the San Francisco Department of Child Support Service to pay off government-owned arrears for a group of parents. The Urban Institute found one of the biggest benefits to participants in this pilot program was the ability to drive again, effectively reinstituting their earning potential. Low-income parents in California need support. The current policy of withholding issuance or renewal of driver's license for those with government-owned child support debt considerable harm to those parents and prohibits them from supporting themselves or their families. So yes, we know that this is severe, but as stated, these state legislators, they don't want to go to the root core. The person that authored this, and this Allison Meredith, they don't want to trace the root. They want to still be able to make money and still be able to enact their slavery through this program. If the people knew the origin of these programs and the fraud, they would not be supporting anything like this. Let me augment this right quick. Go back to the slides. Let me see. So, excuse me. Is SB 1055 unlawful, void, or snake oil? So it's unlawful, yes, because the judiciary has stated that child support is unconstitutional. The child support hearings are trying to act as if they're district court tribunals, which they're not. They don't have a real judge. The child support commissioner is just an employee. He's not an elected official like a judge. He's impersonating a judge. If you look closely at the orders they make, they're forged, they're false, they're using fake court orders to make these debts and take people's licenses. Is it void? So yes, it's unlawful. Is it void? Yes. Because anything that goes against the Constitution is null and void. However, what judge is going to void this out? It's highly unlikely that you'll get a state judge to do that, because the state is the same people that's paying the child support agency and the judges and commissioners. That's why these programs are created. So it's void, but they're not going to go against the grain, meaning they're not going to enforce the law. They're going to enforce the policy. And you can't create laws or enforce laws that are in contrary to the, or go contradict the Constitution. Is SB 1055 snake oil? In a sense, it is snake oil, because they're selling somebody a product that they don't really need. So you're getting your license back, but they never had any jurisdiction to take it other than forging documents. We don't want to undermine people as stated, but the people that are creating these so-called bills obviously don't know what this child support truly is, and if they did, they're not educating the people on it. So as stated, if it's based on forgery or fake court orders or grant fraud and tax evasion, this is like the coming from the poisonous tree doctrine, that anything that they make will be poisonous fruits because it comes from a poisonous tree. So yes, it is snake oil, but one would have to research this. Don't take what I'm saying as true, but take what I'm saying to be true and research it for yourself and your family, knowing that I will not say anything that's not true and make a video about it unless I knew what I was talking about. Next slide. So conclusion, research. Yeah, you do the research and you learn, and don't take people's words for what it is, thinking that this SB 1055 is something good. It might be good to somebody that, really needs their license to survive, and they need that. So that's something that they're willing to compromise to get it. But if you research, the state can't license any rights, say, to traveling. They only could sell you benefits and privileges. But you have to remember that if you prescribe to a benefit and a privilege, you give up your right. So you could research traveling versus driving. Study thyself, approve unto God. Yes, this is all from God, us learning and being fathers and mothers, and we have that moral duty to do that. It's unfortunate that our so-called governmental organizations and units are committing fraud and treason against us. Since they're governmental, government-like, they could get away with that because they're mere corporations. But the real government would never do anything like this. And it's stated again, know who you deal with, which is a maxim of law. People go in these hearings and they just think people are judges. But when you study all these things for what they're worth, you understand what you're dealing with. You will know the people that made and supported this bill are not who they claim to be. These videos have came in existence from people informing me about this SB 1200 and this SB 1055, and this is what has been studied and analyzed with these videos. So we don't want to necessarily say anything negative, but we have to speak the truth. And if it's saying people names, so be it. We got to live by what we say, and we have to be good real models to the children and everybody. Next slide. In conclusion, this is how I came into this. These are the names of people that have committed this fraud against me. So these are the people that have harmed myself and involved in human trafficking of our son Wayne Anthony Dauphin. And these are the people involved. So this is how I came into doing this research and educating people from my own experiences, references. Okay, so thank you very much for viewing the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.